Prologue, A Whisper in the Shadows. In the labyrinthine alleys of Jerusalem, where ancient stones hum with secrets, a pulse stirs beneath the city's modern veneer. It is not the clamor of markets or the echo of prayers at the Western Wall, but something deeper, older, more primal, a rhythm that resonates with the heartbeat of prophecy. The world above churns with chaos economies, teeter wars flare, and division fractures the human spirit. Yet in the hidden corners of this sacred city, a different story is unfolding, one of order, purpose, and divine precision. Men in white robes, their faces illuminated by flickering lamplight, pore over Torah scrolls, their fingers tracing words written millennia ago. They are not scholars or actors, but priests in training, descendants of Aaron, preparing for a moment foretold by prophets. For the first time in nearly 2,000 years, the Levitical priesthood is stirring from its long silence. Why now? Why here? And what does it mean when ancient prophecies align with the pulse of the present? This is no mere tale. It is a journey into the heart of a mystery, a saga of faith, science, and destiny that could herald the final chapter of human history. Act 1. The prophetic blueprint. The idea of a future temple is no fevered dream of mystics or zealots. It is woven into the very fabric of biblical prophecy, a thread that stretches across centuries. In the 6th century BCE, the prophet Ezekiel, exiled in Babylon, was swept into a vision of a temple unlike any the world had known. His scroll in chapters 40 through 48 describes it with breathtaking precision, measurements of chambers, gates, and altars, rituals of sacrifice, and a river of life flowing from its inner court, bringing healing to the nations. This was no metaphor. It was a blueprint, a divine architectural plan for a sanctuary yet to rise. Centuries later, the prophet Daniel spoke of a darker moment, a time when sacrifices would cease and an abomination of desolation would defile the holy place. Daniel 9:27. On the windswept island of Patmos, the Apostle John was commanded to measure a temple that did not yet exist in his time. Revelation 11:1-2. Even Jesus, standing in the shadow of Herod's temple, gazed into the future, warning of a day when the abomination of desolation would stand in the holy place. Matthew 24:15. His words were not vague. They pointed to a literal structure, a sacred space where prophecy would unfold. These voices, Ezekiel's vision, Daniel's timeline, John's measurement, and Jesus' warning, converge on a singular truth before the climax of history. A temple must rise again in Jerusalem. Not a symbol, not a spiritual idea, but a physical sanctuary where priests will serve, altars will burn, and sacrifices will resume. The prophets did not speak in riddles. They laid out a plan. And at its heart lies the priesthood, the sacred order, without which no temple can stand. Act 2, A History Shattered. To grasp the weight of this moment, we must journey back to a day when the world of temple worship collapsed. It was the summer of Lycia, and Jerusalem was a city under siege. The Roman general Titus, with his legions, breached the city's walls, turning its streets into rivers of blood. At the heart of the city stood the Second Temple, its golden facade a beacon of divine presence. But in a matter of hours, it was gone, burned and leveled, desecrated. The altar was shattered, the sacrifices ceased, and the priests, descendants of Aaron, were either slaughtered or scattered into exile. This was no mere political defeat. It was a spiritual earthquake. The temple was the axis of Israel's covenant with God. Without it, there could be no sacrifices. Without sacrifices, no atonement. Without atonement, no reconciliation under the Mosaic law. The Levitical priesthood, the lifeblood of Israel's worship, fell silent. In its place, Rabbinic Judaism emerged, shifting focus to Torah study and synagogue prayer. It was a necessary adaptation, but it was not the same. The sacred rhythm of the temple, its offerings, its priests, its divine encounter was broken. For centuries, the Jewish people held on to a fragile hope. Could the priesthood return? Could the temple rise again? The genealogical records, so meticulously preserved, were lost in the chaos of exile, burned, scattered, or forgotten. Without proof of lineage, the sons of Aaron could not serve. The dream of restoration seemed impossible, buried beneath the weight of history. Yet even in the darkest silence, a spark of hope endured, waiting for a moment when science and scripture would meet. Act 3. The priesthood rediscovered. In 1997, a quiet revolution began, not in a synagogue or a temple, but in a laboratory. Dr. Karl Skarecki, a Jewish geneticist, posed a question that would change everything. If the Kohanim Jewish men claiming descent from Aaron shared a common ancestor, could their lineage be traced through their DNA? Alongside Dr. Michael Hammer's Skorecki, analyzed the Y chromosome, a genetic marker passed unchanged from father to son. They collected samples from Kohanim across the globe, Ashkenazi from Europe, Sephardi from North Africa and the Middle East, men separated by continents and centuries. The results were nothing short of miraculous. A significant majority of these men shared a nearly identical genetic signature, now called the Cohen modal haplotype. This marker stable for over 3,000 years pointed to a single male ancestor who lived around the time of Aaron. Published in journals like Nature and Human Genetics, the findings were a clarion call. The priestly line had not vanished. It had been preserved not on parchment, but in the very blood of the Kohanim. This was more than science, it was prophecy fulfilled. The Torah demands that only the sons of Aaron serve at the altar, and now after 2 millennia of silence, their descendants were identified. The implications were staggering. The priesthood was not lost. It was hidden, waiting to be called forth. And in Jerusalem, that call is being answered. Act 4, or the Temple Institute's mission. In the heart of Jerusalem's old city, a group of visionaries is turning prophecy into reality. In 1987, Rabbi Yisrael Ariel, a former paratrooper who fought for Jerusalem in the Six-Day War, founded the Temple Institute. Its mission is audacious: to rebuild the temple and restore its worship. This is no academic exercise. It is a sacred undertaking rooted in 3 pillars. First, to recreate every sacred vessel described in the Torah, from silver trumpets to the golden menorah. Second, to craft the priestly garments, including the ephod, the breastplate with its 12 radiant stones, and the high priest's golden crown. Third, to train Kohanim, verified descendants of Aaron, for holy service. The Institute's work is meticulous. Over 90 ritual instruments have been crafted, each according to the Torah's exact specifications. The table of showbread, the incense altar, the bronze laver, all are ready. The priestly garments woven with threads of gold and blue are complete. In 2016, Rabbi Baruch Kahane, a confirmed Cohen, was appointed as a provisional high priest, a role not filled since the temple's fall. Behind closed doors, training has begun, legal, liturgical, and practical. The Kohanim are learning the ancient rituals: how to inspect sacrificial animals, how to sprinkle blood on the altar, how to recite blessings without error. Every gesture, every word is precise, for the Torah leaves no room for improvisation in the presence of the Almighty. This is not a dream, it is a reality unfolding in plain sight. Public reenactments in Jerusalem have drawn crowds, Kohanim in white robes offering lambs on replica altars during Passover, Levites chanting psalms as silver trumpets resound. These are not performances, they are rehearsals for a day that feels closer than ever. The world may scoff, but the Temple Institute operates with unshakable conviction. The temple could rise at any moment, and they will be ready. Act 5, the Temple Mount, and the final piece. At the heart of this saga lies the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah, where Abraham offered Isaac, where Solomon built the first temple, and where prophecy points to a third. Today, the mount is a crucible of tension. The Dome of the Rock, a 7th century Islamic shrine, stands where many believe the Holy of Holies once stood. Controlled by the Islamic Waqf, the site is a geopolitical flashpoint. Jewish access is restricted, and the idea of rebuilding the temple seems impossible, a spark that could ignite global conflict. Yet there is more to the story. Some scholars studying ancient texts, historical maps, and underground surveys propose that the Holy of Holies may have stood just north of the dome, leaving space for a new temple without disturbing existing structures. Intriguingly, Revelation 11:2 instructs John to measure the temple, but exclude the outer court, for it is given unto the Gentiles. Could this be a prophetic blueprint for coexistence on the Mount? More provocatively, some speculate that the Antichrist himself might broker a deal to allow the temple's construction, a false covenant of peace that ushers in deception. For now, the Temple Mount remains a paradox, sacred yet contested, central yet untouchable. But Scripture is unequivocal. The temple will rise again, not by human diplomacy alone, but as part of a divine plan. When its foundation is laid, the prophetic clock will tick faster, counting down to a moment that will shake the world. Act 6, sir. The priest prepared to become a priest is to embrace a calling that demands holiness. The Kohanim in training live lives of strict ritual purity. They avoid contact with the dead, even steering clear of cemeteries. They immerse in mikvahs, ritual baths, to cleanse themselves. They study Torah with relentless focus, memorizing every detail of the sacrificial system, how to inspect animals for blemishes, how to handle the blood of offerings, how to move with precision in the presence of God. These are not casual students. They are men preparing for a sacred duty that could begin any day. In recent years, their preparations have moved from the shadows into the light. Videos circulating globally show Kohanim practicing sacrifices, Levites sounding trumpets, and crowds gathering to witness these rehearsals. The sight is both awe-inspiring and unsettling glimpse of a world long gone now rising again. Over 300 Kohanim have been identified and trained, their lineage confirmed by science and their hearts stirred by faith. Even the rare red heifer required for ritual purification has been found and approved. The infrastructure is ready, the priests are ready, only the temple itself remains. Acts 7. Why it matters. Why should this ancient drama matter to a world far removed from Jerusalem's stones? Because it is not merely a Jewish story, it is the story of redemption's timeline. The prophets Jesus, Paul, and John all point to the temple's return as a pivotal sign. In 2 Thessalonians 2, Paul describes a man of lawlessness who will sit in the temple proclaiming himself God. Jesus warned of the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, a desecration that presumes a functioning temple, Matthew 24:15. John measured a sanctuary where these events would unfold. Revelation 11. Without a temple, without priests, without sacrifices, these prophecies remain unfulfilled. But the signs are no longer distant. The garments are woven, the vessels crafted, the priests trained. The stage is being set and the clock is ticking. For Christians, this is a call to awaken. These are not curiosities or relics of a bygone era. They are markers of God's unfolding plan. The return of temple worship signals the nearness of the Great Tribulation, but also the hope of the Messiah's return. Jesus, the true high priest, will come to cleanse the sanctuary, judge the nations, and establish his kingdom. Epilogue. A call to watch, the Levitical priesthood, silent for 1,900 years, is stirring. The sacred vessels gleam, the altars are measured, and the priests are prepared. The only missing piece is the temple itself, and its rise will mark the beginning of the end. This is not a time for fear, but for discernment. As Jesus said in Luke 21:28, when these things begin to take place, straighten up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Watch the signs, pray for wisdom, proclaim the truth. The priests are ready, the temple is near, and the king is coming. Are you watching?